And we're still analysing this week's top stories and some of the developing stories across the world and in news media. And we're in the United States at the moment looking at what's going on with colleges and student safety. And again, it's come back into the media. It was a very problematic situation 2 years ago. We're looking at it again today in terms of college rape, and reports are showing again that the problem is on the rise in US colleges, and with students who are, facing increased, marginalization with the issue, having not reported it. People are saying really not enough has been done after the famous case with the Brock case 2 years ago. It's we're going back over the same problem again. It's like the same like the shootings. This keeps going on, the rape situation in colleges. Sylvia, tell us a little bit about why this is.
Actually, I want to ask you, why do you think are or could be the factors that the colleges, they really haven't done something strongly enough to try to stop it or decrease the number of rapes?
Well, we were discussing a little bit about maybe with young people and promiscuity. But it's always been there, But why is such a high incidence of rape happening on college campuses, and why is there not enough being done in terms of prevention, security and safety of students, and particularly women? This is obviously an issue that affects younger women, and they're away from home. Things obviously are a very different setting for young people in college, but let's say, for example, we've seen how young Americans behave when they're in Cancun, when they're on spring break.
Or even in the States.
Or even you've been in the States a lot.
Yeah, I've been in the States a lot, and yes, definitely sometimes like young kids in general, boys and girls, they get really intense, especially with when they consume alcohol in, excess alcohol, or sometimes drugs, also. And then they get really, really intense, and sometimes the women especially, they get very provocative. I'm not saying that this is the reason why it's happening. Obviously, there are many other situations, right?
Yeah.
Why it's like bringing people into that point. However, it's really getting my attention on how the parents of the victims are not pushing enough the universities to do something about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they're coming from, because of course, people who are in colleges in the United States, they come from different places. It's not only US citizens.
Yeah, and the high incident rates, what tends to bother me is that I think there's probably the repeat offense problem where, so an offender, they'd have a very different system in the campus in terms of dealing with it legally than as if it were going through the regular court system. So they deal with it in there's probably so many more cases that they deal with it in a much more, I don't know if they're brushing it under the carpet, but the amount of punishment, most of these students don't go to jail for it. But, in adult life, it's a punishable offense by jail.
Definitely.
So they are so soft in terms of consequence. And then instead of the worst that can happen is they usually remove that student from the campus, right? But what I'd like to think, could happen is there's much more security for students. If this is happening in the dorm or on the campus, they should have more, like a security alarm or a buzzer. Exactly. If they feel like, okay, this is going too far, I'm under attack here, and hit the buzzer, because there should be security on the campus.
But really, I don't think anybody has done something really serious about it.
No.
And that's why this, it's an easy cake for the offenders.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And the mentality of the students is like, only 12% of young women ever report this crime. So much of it is like, probably I blame myself for what happened, or I don't want to come forward. There's a stigmatization, or it's just so, I hope it's not for this reason, but it's become so common that people say, well, it's happening to everybody anyway, right? If you hear that, it's becoming a norm and a social norm. That's so alarming.
Okay. Yes, and because, as a society, if that's where it goes, then, she's going to think, or the victim is going to think like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do, and that's as far as it gets, and that's fine, or it's not fine, but there's nothing I can do and about it. And then the offender also says, well, I did it once, I can try again with a different person. or maybe later in their lives.
And this is exactly what happened in the case
And nothing is going to happen.
Exactly. Michigan State University, the Larry Nassar case, the recent case of the the female Olympic doctor who was interfering with young girls for many, many years. They decided to all get together, over 250 women as adults, to prosecute this guy and finally put him behind bars for over 200 years of jail. But they bungled that case so badly because there was knowledge about him for many, many years. And again, people are going to be reluctant, don't you think, to come forward when there's so much compelling evidence. Over 200 women had a case against him.